Hello, future millionaires, and welcome back to the Get Rich Slow podcast. We are your hosts, Adrian Shermer, Rob Delavan, and Mr. Brilliant at the Basics, Lance Johnson. How you guys doing today?
Fantastic.
Great, thanks.
Happy Wednesday, I think it is.
Yeah,
I think
a
so. Happy
nice
hump day.
cold Wednesday.
Yeah, we've been
Exactly.
getting a chill snap out here
Exactly.
in the Oregon area and the Pacific Northwest. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and Amazon Music, among other platforms, including YouTube, if you'd like to see our smiling faces while we give you financial advice.
Our dental work, huh?
Today is an episode about lottery winnings. Lottery, which would include gaming winnings. What can we learn from lottery winners? If you're lucky enough to be one, hey, we have some good advice for you.
It's going to be a fun one. So I wanted to share a quick success story before we dive into this. And it's really related to kind of the real estate market. What's been happening. We're in the fourth quarter right now of 2022. And 9 months ago, first quarter, a little bit into the second quarter, everybody was clamoring for, oh my gosh, I'm writing offers on all these houses, these home buyers. And they're saying, we just can't wait. It's been a seller's market for years. Well, guess what? It switched, and it's because of interest rates and, a whole slew of other reasons, but we're now in a buyer's market. And what we're finding is we had a nice win in the last couple of weeks. Adrian did some financing, and I helped a client buy a house that was in the high threes, no competition. We were able to negotiate serious repair concessions and that sort of thing. I mean, this stuff was unheard of 9 months ago. And monthly payments are higher when interest rates go up, but buyers, I mean, that same house probably would have been, and this is the Portland metro area, would have been probably $60,000, $80,000 more with no concessions, with 10 offers, at the beginning of 2022 when it was crazy hot. So this is, it's bargain hunting time, and it was a success for the client. They're super happy. And, I appreciate being able to work with actually both of you guys on this particular client. So thank you, Lance, and thank you, Adrian.
It was an exciting one. And it was cool to see an appraisal come in 10,000 over contract price, even though there was also a $10,000 seller credit. I called the client up and said, hey, thank Delavan Realty. They kind of made you $20,000. It would be a way to look at it. So it's just interesting where we've reached the mountain peak in values, and we're wondering about what the market's going to do, and people have to kind of speculate and hedge their bets when they're putting a house on the market, and maybe some people are drawing that line a little too low and they're cutting themselves out of some money. So there's opportunity in every marketplace, right?
So upcoming events, keep an eye on roi-fa.com/events. We're finishing out the year this year for events, and the first quarter or two should be coming up here shortly. This by the end of the year here. So keep an eye on that, and I'm looking forward to meeting all of our peeps next year.
Back to the subject at hand. In today's podcast, we will be talking about 5 lessons that you can learn from lottery winners. Number 1 is double check what is affordable. 2, keep taxes on your mind. 3, make investing a habit. 4, make an estate plan. I think it's a huge one. And 5, of course, work with professionals. This is based on a full article that you can get on ROI's financial advisor site. We'll have a link in the description to that here in a minute.
Yeah, this will be a fun one. I'm looking forward to diving into this with you guys. Okay, so the first question, Lance, why is it important to check what's affordable and to keep taxes on your mind in this lottery winning scenario?
Yeah, lottery winning is such an interesting scenario because you get this windfall, and a lot of people don't know how to manage a windfall. You see it all the time in sports players. You see it in rap stars. They come into all this money, and then it's just interesting what happens. Everybody that didn't know you starts to know you.
Right.
People ask for handouts.
All my friends came back.
Winning, so where's my winning? And
entourage.
You honestly get to know your real friends. It's just interesting. And so what happens is there's a lot of psychology behind it, but like you feel obligated to, take people to Vegas and, hey, let's take the private jet because I can afford it. And you just get really,
let's get a limo.
You end up really getting beyond your lifestyle, and you have to kind of figure out. So the first thing you get into is taxes always have to be. So the first question you're going to get in a lottery is the big decision is, do I take a lump sum or do I take a payout over time? So if I was to ask you guys, what would you guys do?
Oh, just because I wouldn't necessarily trust the system to be bankrupt in 30 years. I think I'd probably take the lump sum. Publishers Clearinghouse, are they really going to be solvent 15 years from now on that monthly payment?
Okay.
So
Cool.
yeah, but that means
so you're going to pay
taxes, right?
You're going to pay a lot of taxes, and you live in the state of Oregon, so you're going to pay that 10%. And so
plus
there's
Fed,
some
right?
decisions to make. And Adrian, what would you do? Would you take a payout or a lump sum?
I should have prepped and answered this question with more research, but my instinct right away is to say I take it over time. It sounds safer in my mind. I've heard actually had a family member who won a lottery. They bought like 3 houses. The guy was like, oh, I want to get into biking. He buys like the carbon fiber frame bicycle and the race suit, and a week later he's not even using the thing, and big diamond rings and everything. Do you want to guess where they were 2 years later?
Bankrupt.
Broke. They were selling those houses to pay taxes, to pay which I know we're going to get into later, but so having experienced that through a family member, I think I just became a let's take it over time. I'll stop myself.
So and it really depends on the size of the winning. But let's say you get a $20 million lottery win, right? Which is not really big in today's standard, right? That's
right.
Like $40 million.
There was a $2 billion one in the last couple weeks, right?
One winner.
Did someone win that?
And
one
so
winner.
What happens is, all of a sudden now you take that lump sum, you're going to pay taxes on 20 million, and in the state of Oregon and the federal, 50% is going to go to taxes, right? So you got to make sure you make those payments. Some people may not, they'll pay it at the end, but they've already spent it. And so then, you're not used to having that money. So you really want to pay your taxes first, right? Figure out what your bill is going to be. And remember, your other income that you have, like that you're making now, gets stacked on top of all the other taxes. So you're used to paying only 12 or 22 or 24% federally. And all of a sudden now it's up to 37% plus taxes plus, extra taxes. And so what happens is all that other money that you set money aside for taxes that you're making on your regular job and dividends and interest and all that now gets stacked on top, and you're not prepared enough for that.
Right.
So you really want to figure out your tax bill. Now, if it was me, I'd take the lump sum, and for a number of different reasons. I get the taxes out of the way. Instead of being at the highest tax bracket for the next 20 years, I would be in the highest tax bracket once, but then based on the investments that I make, I could use depreciation in real estate. I could do vacation rentals. And that's where you got to get into, and I can offset gains and losses on the stock market, and I can really control my tax bill. So just because I paid huge taxes and my net worth is greater, doesn't mean I have to pay high taxes in the future. It depends on how you invest things, right? And using tax laws and depreciation and real estate. And I'm a big real estate guy, even though I'm an investment advisor. And so now you get into what's affordable. Well, I like real estate, but I like real estate like rentals or vacation rentals, where I'm going to get an income from it, use the depreciation, so it's carrying itself. I might take a little bit of leverage, but I'm not going to take huge leverage. But I got to make sure I have liquid assets. So for me, I might put 30 or 40% of my investments, the remaining after taxes, in real estate with a little bit of leverage. But I'm going to do it in something that I'm going to get a revenue stream from, not just by real estate that's an expense to me.
Right.
Okay.
Like every month.
I'm going to have some liquid assets that are growing, like stocks and bonds that pay dividends, to help pay for the real estate taxes and the maintenance and the improvements. And so you really you really got to have a balance.
Yeah.
And I think when you take taxes in consideration, you make sure you balance it out. And then, would I buy an expensive car? I'm sure I would, but I wouldn't buy three. I wouldn't go buy diamond rings that don't make you any money, that, you pay at 10x, and then when you have to sell them, you get 1x,
Right.
So,
right.
It's just, be smart about your choices. Are you going to go spend money frivolously? Yeah, you're going to spend money on vacations and stuff. But the problem is you start to have an entourage spending money that's on stuff that doesn't make you any money. You really don't want to kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. You really want to really keep that goose laying eggs. And you really got to balance it out and be tax efficient. And I think if you can look at that, I think that's where an advisor can help you, really help you manage the cash flow of your purchases and make sure your taxes are paid regularly. I think you'll be okay. The people that don't, those are the people that 5 years down the road, they frivolously spend money, they're out of money, there's a depression that sets in, everybody's always asking for handouts, and you feel obligated, you have an entourage, and you see this all the time, and you hear about those people that are broke, or those rap stars or athletes that, made millions and millions, but then got taken advantage of. And those are sad stories,
You say you can't drive more than one Bentley at a time, Lance?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard the statistics. I mean, I wish I had a source for these, so big grain of salt, but I've heard numbers like 70% of lottery winners, declaring bankruptcy within a set amount of time. There's an actual, it seems like there's a bias. So there's actually a very high chance that it will not go well for you. So setting up these plannings.
There's a lot of, I mean, I hate to say it, but like, the world works in balances. You get this incredible windfall. There's an opposite and equal evil event that takes place, and it's people look at you differently. Like there was one of the biggest lottery winners. He split it in thirds, and he was out of Maryland or something, and he was a very successful businessman, and already before he won the lottery. And I mean, so he was making $1 million a year net of his business. So he knew what having wealth was. But when he was 1/3 of $500 million, like there was 1.5 is one of the biggest, and he was a third owner. He literally, it destroyed his life. He got a divorce, right? He was became an alcoholic. Was always going to the strip joints. Everybody was asking for money from him. He would turn people down, and people would hate him. He was well known in his community prior to then, but people just looked at him differently. And literally, I remember watching an interview of this guy, and he's like, my life got destroyed after that, because everybody viewed me differently. Everybody thought that I would give them money, and when I didn't, they were offended by it. I did some stupid things, spent money, went to the strip clubs, lost my wife. I mean, it was just like, I just would have rather not had the money. I mean, I was already successful. And so it's just, there's a lot of a responsibility that takes place that people are not used to when you get those windfalls. And so, you got to be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, what value do you see in making investing a habit, and the importance of making an estate plan?
Well, there's a couple things here, and it's gonna, a lot of this circles back to, in a lottery conversation, it goes back to the financial advisor, who's kind of your quarterback, for the personal financial piece. But the value there is obviously, Lance already covered it a little bit, is, you're gonna do percentages. You're going to create or invest in, assets that are going to kick off cash flow over time, like real estate, like, financial investing. And then the next piece, I mean, obviously making an estate plan, like if and when, God forbid, something happens, like, you make millions, all of a sudden and then here comes cancer, right? Or whatever, like, what is your, what do you do? What does your family do? Is there a plan in place? I mean, talk about the horror stories of when somebody dies and there's no estate plan in place. There's no process, expectation. You have a bunch of heirs, you siblings or kids, or that sort of thing. I mean, talk about an easy way to tear apart a family apart is everybody starts fighting now over something that was supposed to be a blessing, which was a lottery windfall, right?
Yeah.
So that's that piece, and that's where I mean, Lance, I mean, you preach this every day, and it's just investing has to be a habit. Well, a habit is something that you repeat over and over and over again so that it becomes such. And an estate plan is part of that. If you're willy-nilly, if you're all over the place, you're basically that person that you both talked about. That, oh man, that lottery blessing becomes a curse. So that's my short answer, but I actually want to kick it over to Lance on this.
Well, there's a couple of things I would do. I would assess the state you're living in.
Yes, there
from
you go.
income taxes and estate taxes.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean you can't have a home in your home base, but in Oregon, it's one of the most expensive states west of the Mississippi, and so
right.
I probably would move my main home to a different location and visit Oregon more.
Yeah.
And for estate planning purposes and income tax purposes, I might establish a family foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Where in the first year I would fund that foundation as a 503c, so I get a reduction
charitably
on taxes,
mm-hmm.
and then the family can manage the fund. So if I had $100 million, I probably put 20 million in a foundation and want to do some good and keep it away from the government, and take that foundation where 5% and I can draw a salary from it and manage it and stuff like that, or my family could, like my kids, teach them about how to be responsible and philanthropic. I would buy some real estate. Like I said, have some real estate that was good in a revenue, especially in places I would want to go. And so I would, rent those out like vacation rentals. I would have some money in the stock market. And I would have a financial plan and figure out what my revenue stream is and what my tax bill is. And I would do the same thing I'm doing now at $100,000, at $500,000 of income. I would do it at 2 million, 100 million. And you just have a game plan. And I probably have people look at my plan different from me. So even though I'm a financial advisor, I have 2 friends that are financial advisors. I would present my plan to them and ask them to pick holes in it and give me some, just because sometimes, like even myself, you end up believing in what you think. It's good to get somebody else to kind of review that plan.
Right. Yeah. And that's, I would say if there's one, there's a lot of gold in there to pull out, but if there's that one piece of, frankly, I don't care if you win the lottery at $100 million, you're not going to do anything technically different than the habit of investing in estate planning and all of the things, like you said, 100,000, 500,000, or 500 million. Yes, that you add some zeros. Yes, your lifestyle is going to go up, but the principle still.
I still think I would own the businesses. I still think I would work.
Right.
I love building people's wealth, and I have a lot of fun doing that. It's quite a joy for me. I don't think anything would change in my life. I probably would, maybe upgrade to first class occasionally on a flight, and I probably would travel a little bit more, maybe work a little bit less, but I wouldn't stop working.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Absolutely. I think that there's an interesting, that even just the term estate, when I hear that word, right, to me, it brings forth like I picture when you pass away and there's the big funeral procession, like in the movies, like in the Grand Budapest Hotel, everyone's there waiting to figure out what they're going to get in their will. I've watched families tear themselves apart, just 2 people squabbling over a pile of cash. And I see this as an opportunity to change the lottery winning from just like, how am I going to distribute this? We talked a bit before this recording about, people might try to pay a mortgage off for someone, or they might, they see these big grand gestures, and it's the dreams that we all have, but it can be very dangerous. And the alternative is that you can create a legacy. You could turn an amount of money, even a not huge jackpot, could become something that your descendants or family members could benefit from long term for the rest of their lives and rest of generations worth of lives, if managed correctly. So what a fantastic thing you could turn this into, for many, many people, if you really want to go for that route.
And it could be, but 75% of the people are bankrupt after 5 years. So there's a lot of education around that. And it's the same way with sports players and rap stars that are not used to having money, and all of a sudden you get that. And there's just education and responsibility. And unfortunately, some of those, like you see 30 for 30, some of those are taken advantage by professionals that also want their hand in it. It's sad to watch, and I hope if everybody ever does a lottery winning or a sports star that makes it, come see us, because right now, I hate to see that stuff. We do the same thing, whether we're managing $10 million or managing $1 million. The goal is to make our clients money and let that word get out. So, okay, Adrian, why is it vital to work with professionals after winning the lottery?
I hope we've answered this question a bit in what we've said, but obviously, lottery winning, especially in the sizes of money that we might be talking about here, and it's gonna vary a bit, but your situation is going to be a huge determiner. Obviously, someone who makes $20,000 or $30,000 a year is going to have to take a different strategy than someone who, let's say, is already in the highest tax bracket. The impact of certain decisions is going to be much greater or smaller depending on your personal situation. And I think that the other component in my mind is just to separate yourself, the emotional component, from all of these decisions, to make them pragmatically, to make decisions based on the facts, and to know where the rules are, where the lines are, so that you can make the most of what you've won. And hopefully, as we talked about, turn it into a legacy, not into a warning story to generations to come.
Well, let's be real. How easy is it for everyone to pragmatically look at other people's tendencies, faults, self-destructive things, that sort of thing? And it's so easy to see it in other people. How hard is it then to see it in ourselves? So you add, let's just drop, $1 million, $10 million, $100 million on top of that. And I mean, it's no surprise that such a high percentage end up not doing well with this. And, let's be real. They don't have a Lance Johnson in their corner.
Yeah.
And Lance Johnson is going to be pragmatic. He's going to say, okay, what's the numbers? What's the taxes? What's the this, that? He's going to play, and by extension, he says, okay, you're going to do a percentage in real estate. And if you're doing real estate, you're going to do lending. If you're going to do, you can't do anything without tax. It comes back to this, golden triangle that we have of, the financial, the tax, and the real estate. And you can't do any of them by themselves as well as you can do all of them together. But it's just there's just this concept of you have to have that person that specializes in playing chess in personal finance rather than checkers. I don't know.
If you notice, right above my shoulder is the word dream. And so,
right.
And I purposely have it there for a lot of different reasons in my office. But, I want my clients to, think about winning the lottery. Wow, there's some cool dreams that could happen. And so then our job is to create a business plan around that, right? And to make those dreams. And so in that, who am I to tell a client what to do? It's their money. But what my job is to give them options that allow those dreams to happen and then not get them in trouble. And so what ends up happening, our job is to really give you the choices and educate you about being responsible with money, and then to allow you to live your dreams and not have any regrets. And so the big thing about those clients that go bankrupt, there is a lot of, there's this massive emotional windfall, like, oh my God, a euphoria of like my dreams and have been answered. But then 5 years down the road, the complete opposite is now, they always say, is it better to love or not love? Like if you fall out of love, it's better never to love, that type of thing.
Right.
Or is it better to have money and then lose it? Well, man,
Right.
there's a pit in the stomach. And so we just don't want people to go through that negative side of things.
Right.
Still keep dreaming, but then let's build a game plan that allows you to keep that growing and have something. And that's us tapping you on the shoulder and saying, all right, that spending's just a little bit too high, and don't forget about taxes. And because once you get behind the 8 ball, you're never going to you win $100 million. The chance of you winning $100 million is very slim.
Right.
But then the chance of winning it twice
again, right? Exactly. Oh, that's awesome. I love leaving it on that note. The bottom line there is, whether you win the lottery, experiencing any kind of windfall money, in our opinion, if you keep these, kind of 5 things, and we always, as we do, we meander, but keep these 5 lessons in mind. And then, as always, if you have any questions, comments, reach out, connect with us anytime.
Great. What a great topic.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Get Rich Slow podcast.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.